Good afternoon, everyone. I am Dr. Sanjay Gappad from Chembond Animal Health, and currently I am taking care of sales and marketing. So I welcome all of you to our today's webinar. The webinar topic is the current landscape and challenges in poultry farming operations. And I am happy to see such a diverse group of individuals gathered here today. So all united by our common interest in the same topic. So whether you are a seasoned professional seeking to deepen your understanding or a newcomer eager to explore the possibilities, this webinar promises to be an enriching experience for all of us. So today's agenda of our webinar is, during our time together, we will deliver into various aspects of topics, aiming to equip you with the knowledge and tools necessary to thrive in this dynamic field. And here is a brief overview of what we will cover. So mainly, we will understand the basic fundamentals of farm practices. Then we will explore advanced techniques in farm management, and there will be a query and answer sessions where you can ask your concern or queries to our speaker. Now, join me to welcome our today's webinar speaker. He is Dr. Jayaraman, and Dr. Jayaraman is a graduate from Madras Veterinary College, and Dr. Jayaraman having 27 years of experience in poultry industry. Currently, Dr. Jayaraman working as a freelance poultry consultant, and their coverage is in South Asia, Middle East, and North Africa. Then he has expertise in various fields, which includes breeding, farming, hatchery operations, pure line operations. Then he also known in the industry for troubleshooting capabilities as well as differential diagnosis of poultry diseases. Also worked in various capacities in big companies, both in India and abroad. In poultry production, Dr. Jayaraman handled different strains, both in broiler and layers. Dr. Jayaraman is a familiar space in the industry, known for technical expertise and disease diagnosis. He is also known to monitor and handle some projects like Sampurna, then Komarla, and that these groups are well known to the poultry industry. Also, Dr. Jayaraman known in the market for acumen in the field of vaccines and interpretation of titles. Dr. Jayaraman co-authored a few articles and which are published in reputed national and international magazines. He also developed a rapid detection kit for the Clostridium perfringens, which causes the necrotic enteritis in the industry. He lives in Coimbatore, and which belongs to Tamil Nadu, India. Dr. Jayaraman delivered many lectures in national and international seminars. Dr. Jayaraman also received a national award for his technical services to poultry industry, and that awards he received from IPJA, the Indian Poultry Journalist Award, in the year 2006 during the event in Pune. Dr. Jayaraman, I just want to inform you that our entire sales team and the customers from India, Nepal, and Bangladesh, also our top management, our MD, Mr. Samir Shah, and our business head, Mrs. Rashmi Gowli, and our technical team as well. They all are listening to you. Now over to you, doctor. Please.
Thanks, Dr. Sanjay. Thanks for the nice introduction. Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are clearly audible.
Okay. I think you can stop sharing the flyer. I will do the screen share of my presentation.
Yes, sir, now you can share.
No, you need to discontinue your screen. Then only I can share. It's not accepting. You able to see my screen, Dr. Sanjay?
Yes, sir. Please
It's
continue.
in a full screen, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Good afternoon, everyone. The participants and the management of Chembond, thanks for giving me the opportunity. Today, the topic which I am going to talk in current landscape and the difficulties in poultry farming operations. See, to start with a little bit about the introduction of how the poultry is shaping up today and how the industry will progress in the coming days. That's that. Then first short introduction, and second one about the common challenges in the breeders, broilers, and layer. Sometimes you have a common trouble in these things from the health perspective. Some of them challenges of specifically breeders and broilers and layers. I would talk in the next line, and suggestions to tackle the challenges. This is the line of talk which I am going to talk for next hour or so. If you look at the poultry industry, it is everyone knows it's quite growing very well. But the interesting part of it's also consolidating. One part of that is consolidation happens in terms of companies are becoming bigger and bigger. That's the one part of it. The second part of it, you would see the intensity of farming in the sense per birds per square meter is also increasing. So we have to consider both the things into the account. If you look at the practices, some year back, there were some issues or some practices, but currently, if you look at, are we doing the same thing? Are we following same vaccination schedules or the practices? No, it's not, no more. If you look at it some years back, maybe I would say some 15 years back, in the broilers, if you're asking about the usage of Newcastle killed vaccine, inactivated vaccine, was not a common practice. Initially, it used to be only in Andhra Pradesh. Then later on, we realized throughout India, it has become a norm. So if you ask me what's that has changed is when the intensity is increasing, the disease pressure is also increasing. When the disease load is increasing, you have to go in for more and more newer techniques or the intensive techniques to counter the same. So you have to consider, as I mentioned earlier, it's not only the expansion and also the density of the poultry is also increasing. But if you look at some parts of that India or some parts of the area, still there is not much trouble. If you look at it, Chhattisgarh or the central part of India, so far they are okay. If you are going to talk on the problems, issues, we cannot generalize it. Why we cannot generalize it? Some areas you have a higher pressure and you have some areas you have a lower pressure. Even if the adjoining areas also, for example, if you are going to talk on Punjab and Haryana, Haryana is having a very high pressure of the diseases or issues. But comparatively, when you look at Punjab, you don't have that much issues. Even though you have some common problems, you don't have issues. So when you are going to talk on the problems, you have to be specific. What is that geography we are talking of? And what is this issues we are talking of? We cannot generalize. India is so vast and big. And when you talk a problem, you have to be very specific. Which region you are talking of, and what is that the pressure of the load we are talking of. So you have to be clear on that when you are going to talk on that, and when you are going to take a decision of some practices, you have to consider this one. Again, when you are talking of the diseases itself or the pressure itself, again, we cannot generalize this particular region or this state is having eye problem. For example, if you take Karnataka, Karnataka is having very high load of issues, some of the diseases. But if when you look at some particular farms, some particular companies' farms, they're quite relatively safe. I was observing is why is what it was. The reason is that their biosecurity is quite different and it is good. So when you are going to talk on that, again, we have to look at it from the farming angle also. What is the farms you are talking of? So when the farms are increasing and the density is increasing, again, when you are finding mixed population, some areas, for example, where you have got a broiler and layer and breeders together nearby, you will have a high challenges. So you have to consider all these factors when factoring into to take a decision or the farming practices. Okay. Let us go to the basics bit of it. When you're talking of that problems or diseases, one of the things everybody used to talk of in general, okay, how is that biosecurity? I was mentioning in that particular state, even in Karnataka, I have seen some farms or some these things are having a good amount of less amount of issues. All right. Now, when you look at it, um, the biosecurity is one of the key critical one. When you talk of biosecurity, to my opinion, the perception varies very widely. It's just like blind people trying to look at the elephant, feel it, and say it's like a trunk. Somebody say it's got a big horn or something like that. So nobody, in most of the cases I've seen, it is a lot of differences in the practices. I'm going to show a picture of mine when I'm visiting a farm in Bangladesh. You could see when I'm entering, I am in a green dress. When I'm entering to the office zone, I am into the blue dress. When I'm going into the housing, I am in the green dress. Every time I have to take a bath, change slippers, and everything. And again, it's very clearly demarcated. That's a kind of a biosecurity also exists in this region. Or sometimes I've seen people just walking into the farm, but they will ask you to change, put a apron cloth, and they will ask you to put a chapel from the farm side and say, "Sir, please come in." And there will be a kind of a shower on you, and they will go inside. So that's also they call it. It's a part of biosecurity. It is in the gradation it stands. It depends a lot. When you are going to look at it, when you are going to look at the practices, this makes a lot of difference. So biosecurity is relatively a kind of a notional thing still in our area. So without improving or improvising that, when we are trying to look at it, uh, the farm and ask for questions, "Sir, you please suggest something." I would not be in a position to suggest, or somebody would not be in a position to give you a perfect answer or closer to your answer. Reason is, even though the location could be different, biosecurity again makes a lot of difference. If you're going to look at it, the issues, sometimes people will take a generalized view. if you are going to talk on the H5 outbreak in the North India, we'll find there are a lot of migratory movements. You can look at the red lines where the bird moves. But when you are going to talk on that is in the South India, for example, your pathways are not very much in the south. If you look at north, as you mentioned, there are very clearly the birds where it comes in. But in south, if you are going to look at it, it's more towards the transmission through the vehicle movement or people. So when you are going to talk, before generalizing it, we need to understand the transmission mode and why it is. For example, Kerala is in the pathway, but how from Kerala to Tamil Nadu it is happening? It's happening mostly through the people or vehicle. So when you are going to say a statement, sir, we have an issue in that particular region, I think I also got a region, but the mode of transport or mode of spread could be a different one. So you have to understand these basics and act accordingly. Right. When you are going to talk on that, common challenges in current farming conditions, I would say there are three major problems for the breeder, broiler, and layer. What is that? One is that first one comes in the Newcastle disease. Second, in that order, I would say bronchitis is in the concern. Third one is the mycoplasmosis. All right. I'm taking the major three things where people find it really difficult to handle it and really difficult to understand it. Let us take the Newcastle disease. Newcastle disease or the Ranicat, RD or ND, what we say as an RD, is not a new one. But even then, we have a problem. Why is that? We have in recent times a virulent form of the Newcastle disease. Could be, we say, G7, genotype 7, or sometimes we classify as a genotype 30. Both are very close in that pattern. We get an issues. Where is that it is happening? Let us look. It's happening on all three species. All three species is the breeder. We have troubles in the broiler. We have trouble in the commercial layer as well. This particular picture is showing of the breeders, which is in cages. When the neuronal nervous trouble affects, you would find more than the mortality, morbidity will be very high, sometimes even up to 30 to 50%. When you are finding problem with the neck twisting and all, what will happen? The bird will not be in a position to take water, becomes dehydrated, emaciated, and they will die. So if you are going to look at it, sir, I will give vaccine, I will give these things. Once the virus reaches the brain, it is very, very difficult to control. What is the best thing you can save the bird in this kind of situation is more than the medicine or vaccine, it is actually the water. When the birds are able to take some water, you have to make the birds to drink some water so that they don't get dehydrated and die. Birds can live long even without feed, but they cannot live without water. So you have to make sure that the birds get water. This is the torticollis of typical torticollis of the Newcastle, which you will find it. This is the broiler breeder. You could see two pictures. Both are proventricular hemorrhages. The left one you will find very much diffuse as if it's painted, and it is diphtheric. Diphtheritic means you can see the pus kind of formations there. This is the genotype 7 or 13, this one. On your right side, the papillary hemorrhages, what you are finding is from the regular Newcastle. So by looking at that picture itself, you will be able to say what is the trouble and how it is happening. This particular intestine, you can see the yellow color dots. It's like a small dots. This is hemorrhagic intestine. Unlike a commercial, the regular one, you will find the yellow color dots will be there. This is a diphthetic patches which comes in the Newcastle disease. Right. You would see the same trouble in the broilers. These are all the pictures of the broiler. You see the right side of this one. So sometimes when you are getting this high mortality or very high mortality, people sometimes get confused. They will say, oh, sir, I think this is VBND or what we call as an LPA. No. In case of these villogenic form of an Newcastle disease, you will find mortality as high as sometimes 80% or 90%. So that will give you a confusing opinion. Oh, this is LP or HP. No, it's not LP or HP. LP, sorry, you will not get this high mortality, but HP, you will get very high mortality, equal to that of genotype, this one, the variant one. So you have to differentiate. By looking at the serology, you can differentiate. Of course, there will be very high spike in the titer, HI titer. The titer will go up to 10, 11, something like that. So when you are going to look at these kind of pictures in the breeders and in broilers, it will go up to 7 to 8. It will go. So we can very easily, we can tell this is a Newcastle only, but it's from a variant. Commercials in recent times, you might find these kind of a mango-shaped eggs. These mango-shaped eggs are very typical of a genotype 7 infection. So we tend to get this one. Please remember, when you are going to get a problem, especially these kind of an issues, it will not recover, come back to the normal production level. Sometimes it might touch, and sometimes it may not touch. Why I'm saying sometimes? See, when there is a moderate level of trouble to the oviduct, and you will find it comes to closer to the normal path. But if it is accompanied with higher mortality, or if it's accompanied with what you call severe drop in production, it will not come back, because when the oviduct is affected, the mucosa will be having a lot of damages and scars, and you will find these kind of egg formations will be there. There will be also small eggs will be there. What we call as a PBX will be there, and it will not reach back. Maybe 10% difference in the performances to the standard to the actual will be there. So you have to be careful in trying to understand. You might try to improve by giving so many things. In my observations, I've seen sometimes when you're giving a vitamin A preparations, pure vitamin A, which is in liquid preparations, which is available in the market, that one you can give because it heals the epithelial lining of the oviduct to some extent. I'm repeating, to some extent, it helps in bringing back the eggshell quality as well as the damage. It rectifies the oviduct. So you can try that by doing this one. This is about what you can do about the post affections. You can try this. All right, coming back to the prevention strategies. We were doing the vaccines of group 2, which is Lasota or B1 or R2B and all. But this particular one, genotype 7, is having much higher virulence than the currently employed ones. So sometimes people have resorting to different type of vaccines. Apart from the live vaccines, we are also giving inactivated vaccines and also employing the vector vaccines. We will see what is the pros and cons. Live vaccines have got limitations. Before onset, you can give it. Post onset of the disease, it helps to some extent. But when we are finding this kind of a very virulent form of the problems, you don't get to back to the normal, still you will find these problems. But when you are going to look at it in the live vaccines, in especially commercial layers, I have seen sometimes we get some better results. It's not that it is not completely helping, but at the heights of the disease, to some extent, in some of the forms I have seen it is giving. The results are variable. You have to understand. It's not a foolproof, but it helps. But killed vaccine, recent times, the regular Lesotho-based vaccines also there, genotype 13-based killed vaccines is also there. The third one is the vector vaccine. Vector vaccines is very effectively employed when you're giving so early, especially in day one or in one, it is helping. So probably when you are going to look at it, especially in Middle East and all, people are employing basically vector vaccines to effectively control the outbreaks, especially in the broilers, they are employing it. So this is three types of vaccines which is helping. So probably you could employ any one of that. But the recent ones, as I mentioned, even after the traditional vaccines, when it is a breaching, and the breach is happening with that regular ones, you need higher titers to protect it. For example, when you are going to have a very good titer, normally 7 to 8 is a protective level if you say in the long-lived birds. In this case, you may require 9.5 approx average, so that it gets some better results. Sometimes people employ live and inactivated vaccines are reverse engineered vaccines of G7, which is available in the market. It's also giving good results. If you are going to be the conventional vaccines, please remember, even with the conventional vaccine also, we are able to protect it, but you need to raise the titer in a very high level. When you are going to do that, you are getting it good response. So this is how it is being handled currently. You can handle this serious threat of Newcastle. Okay, now coming to the second trouble is the bronchitis, specifically the variant bronchitis. What is the variant bronchitis issues are there? Let us see. You may think, sir, I'm using vaccinations. Then why am I getting this problem? Sometimes they will say, sir, I don't really understand. Why is that even after vaccinations, I'm not having trouble? Sometimes just by post-mortem or these things, you will not be able to understand. In this case only, I would, the help of molecular diagnostics is coming into play. You can go in for not just a PCR to say whether it's a positive or negative. You can look it for the sequencing to understand it. What's that exactly I am having, and whether its vaccination current schedule is closer or. So you can take a call by doing that. These are all the problem statements people used to tell, a farmer used to say, sir, I'm seeing in breeders drop in production during the peak period. Despite the vaccinations, I'm getting suspecting IB, sir. Doctor says it's IB. How it is possible, sir? Why my current vaccination schedule is not protecting? Sometimes people will tell that this happens in the breeders, this happens in the commercial layers. That's one type of statement you will hear. Let us hear the second one. Sometimes people will complain in commercial layers and breeders, goat in the growth stages. I am giving mass type vaccine. Somebody will tell, sir, I'm using H120. Somebody will say I'm using MFI or MFI plus 130. Sir, even killed vaccines I have given, sir. But even then, why gout is coming? Somebody says it is IB. Why? Whether my vaccine is not protecting? That's the second type of things people will talk to you when you are talking to the breeders and the layers. Sometimes even the broilers also similarly used to tell about this gout state. Third one, when you are looking at the breeders or the commercial layers, they will say higher amount of peritonitis cases. When you talk of the peritonitis, they will say, sir, I'm using the correct light intensity. Why I'm getting that? My water is still clean. People say that with the E. coli, you will get peritonitis. And my water is clean, sir. My water sample tested. It's good. But even then, I am having a problem. Why is that? Why it is coming? So that's another kind of a statement people you will listen it. As I mentioned earlier, in the broilers, you will find gout. So these are all the different statements or the queries, but the subject is saying this is happening because of the variant IB. What is variant IB? The standard IB is the mass one, which is you would be able to address it by whether it's H120 or MA5 or M41, or they're all same serotypes. But when you are having gout, when you are having production drop or cystic oviduct, these are caused by variant IB. Even though IB is the tropism, tissue tropism is slightly different. Okay, let us see some of the pictures of what we are looking at it. Breeders and layers, you will find sometimes misshapen eggs. This is caused by this IB. Second one, you look at the right side of the picture. The left one is the good one, and in the center one is moderate liquefaction of the thin, and thin is not there. You see in the classical case on the right side corner of the photo, where only the egg yolk is seen, it's clearly the difference between the thin and thick doesn't exist. Please remember this particular picture, you should not look at the heights of the disease. Sometimes there is a drop of production. People will open the egg and say, sir, I don't find liquefaction of the albumin. I think it is not IB. No. You have to look at the recovery phase, or what you call technically convalescent phase. That particular period, when the production stopped, dip, yes, stopped, and again when it started improving, that particular period, or when the production is has been stopped and there is a pause in that particular period, when you open it, you will find this classical case of liquefaction of albumin. Sometimes in the broiler, you will find these kind of lesions. And you can see the urolithiasis, which is technically where the uritic deposits in the ureter, and see the color of the kidney. It's so become pale. It's also caused by the bronchitis. Sometimes you will find a litter eating habit also. Means they will, even though you give a good feed, and they will try to go and take the litter materials. Sometimes you can see the picking of that litter is happening. When you look at open it, you will find the stones will be there. Again, please look at it. The junction between proventriculus and gizzard will be enlarged. Initially, they used to mention this is as a transmissible proventriculitis, but now this is also being recorded in mostly in variant bronchitis, variant infectious bronchitis. You will find. You see that it's the mouth, the entry port of his sphincter is enlarged. So this, if when you're going to look at it, you will find, you can say this is various bronchitis. Some of this picture is commercial layer. Look at the birds, the way it is standing. It's actually excess accumulation of the fluid in the oviduct. So when it's going to have this kind of these things, birds will start working like penguin. So this is basically an QX type of variant bronchitis. You look at it, this is cystic oviduct. Normally, only one oviduct should be functional, which is the left side of it. But when the right side of it will have a water bodies here. So when you have a kind of a cyst here, this is a classical case of a variant bronchitis. Look at this picture. This is from the broiler breeder. What you saw earlier was the layer, commercial layer, but what you are seeing right now is the broiler breeder. So when you see these kind of pedunculations, which is marked in the red color, you can see here small. When some places you will find so big amount of the water bodies over here. So you can see this is again because of the bronchitis. When this variant bronchitis affected, you can see the oviduct becomes shrunken. It will become like a thread-like or a pencil-like. You see on the left side, which is normal one, and I kept a sample picture on the right side. You will find it's a very, very narrow and thin. So this is basically happening because of variant bronchitis. Okay, how we have to control? By combination of standard vaccine and the variant vaccines of serotypes, you can control this. For example, you can day old, you can use vaccines like 793-B or 4-91 or CRII. These are all basically three different vaccine strains, which is primarily for helping to contain or protect these variant infectious bronchitis. So you have to administer it quite early. Sometimes I have seen people used it quite late, as early as 35 days first application or 14 days of first application. Even then, in that cases, you find gout cases. So when you started administering on day one, we find better protection rather than positioning it on the later stages. When the infection load is moderate, you can position or do the vaccination administration later, the second week onwards. But if the farm is affected so badly, you have to do it from the day one itself. Sometimes when there is a higher pressure, please go with inactivated vaccine also. There is variant killed vaccine, and for the infectious bronchitis, you can do that, and you can see good response in protections. For robust protections, at least a minimum 3 doses are required in the growing stage. If needed, I'm saying, if needed, you have to use it in the lay also. I've seen sometimes where there is a recurrent infections and later stages you don't get robust protections. We have employed these variant vaccines in the laying stage also. Let it be broiler breeder or commercial layers. Even at that laying also, it has given good results. So, but normally I would prefer to restrict up to the grower stage. But if the farm is having higher levels of infection also, I tend to tell them still, I think to prevent the farm getting contaminated of the shedding, you have to employ the live vaccines to block it. So this is how I would tell for the bronchitis. Okay. Now coming to the third, the major problem, which affects all the 3 species, is mycoplasma. All of you know, mycoplasma is a big threat now. Basically, 2 species causes problem in poultry. One is Synovi and Gallisepticum. Sometimes we find both present together. That time we get very severe problem. But normally, if you are going to take the pan-India and the neighboring countries, I have seen the MS is the more problematic. Not only in the Asian context, globally as well. When we are going to talk to the people or the farming people, Nobody talks about Mg. If Mg is still, you are hit with Mg and still you are not able to control, either your molecule, what you are using is not working, or your strategy is not right, or you are not giving optimal dose, because Mg is quite a common one and we are able to control it. But MS is the tough one. So you have to understand these basics very thoroughly. If you're going to look at it, of the controlling, which is the more looked after subject, or the way to control, is still, I would say, these chemicals is a preferred choice. This opinion changes from the regions to region and the countries to country. Some places, for example, like Central India, the people employ very effectively the vaccine, and they don't use any more medications until up to 45, 50 weeks of age. In some other places where the biosecurity is good, for example, places like Karnataka, I have seen some good farms. They employ vaccine and they perform a DIVA PCR in between. And if they find the trouble with the field strain, then they go for a medication. Otherwise, they don't do. Maybe one time or two times later on in life cycle, they give it. So that kind of situation is also there. So it depends upon the biosecurity and the technology of this one, the region. This opinion changes. There is nothing like the vaccine is the best option. There is nothing like the chemical is the best option. Sometime combination also works very well. And the cost of controlling is also very economic. That's very important. For example, mycoplasma causes, it's when you say mycoplasma, commonly it is difficult to differentiate trouble in terms of postmortem. Some MG and MS will have a respiratory problems, but if you are looking at egg apical shell abnormalities and lameness, it's mostly because of MS it happens. So you have to understand the pathology of it. Egg apical cell, if you are looking at the egg, you will find roughened surface. You will try to look at it, calcium, phosphorus, minerals, or other things. But mycoplasma MS also creates a trouble and drop in eggshell quality. Earlier, if you talk, you always say it's narrow and it is there. But in recent times, we are finding it in the broader ends also like this. In the commercial layers also, when you find egg like this, you have to always think it's a mycoplasma. Another thing is white color eggs. When you talk of that, you find the paler eggs is also one of the reasons caused by pale reason is because of mycoplasma. So you have to be you have to understand it. In the day-old chicks, when your air sacs, thoracic air sacs, you will find the deposits of fibrinous material, yellow cheesy deposits. You can very easily tell this is mycoplasma. Basically, we do this testing by conducting pipped embryo test, or the embryo which has been pipped in the hatchery, but still they are alive and which are not able to come out. You are going to look at it. Why you are going to look at it? Because the assumption is that when the air sacs are affected, bones don't have that strength to pip and come out comfortably. So when you are going to take those chicks, when you do the postmortem, means necropsy, and see the air sacs, you will find the deposits, like you see yellow deposits on the air sacs closer to the heart. This is called pipped embryo test. This is one of the tools to understand what is the status of mycoplasma. When it is more than 30-40%, that means you have got a clearly big trouble. Your medication or vaccination is not working well. You look at it one particular these things, serology, this is MG in the same form. look at the titers, it's always negative, negative. But the same medication, look at this MS. That means what? The program is not working well for MS. For MG, it is working well, but MS is not working well. Please remember, when there is a sudden jump of the titers very rapidly, that indicates there is a trouble of mycoplasmosis. So you have to understand, especially in the MS, if the titers are jumping gradually, that means there is no issue. Even though it rises, it's still on the positive side. You can say it is protected. How do you look at it, whether it's protected or not? Take the day-old chicks, look for the coanal sample. When you take the coanal sample and run a PCR, if it should be negative, that means your titers are positive, but still the chicks are negative. But on the contrary, if the chicks, which is coming out, peeping out, are showing PCR positive for MG or MS, that means it is called a superimposing infection. There are titers, there are vaccinal titers, but even then, there is a superimposing infection of MG or MS is there. That is why the commercial chicks are showing positive. In that situations, you have to intervene in the parent. The existing program is not working. So this is what the interpretation about the serology and the commercial performances. So when you are going to look at the mycoplasma, you have got three things in the broilers, breeders, and commercial layer. In breeders, you look at these titers and take a call. Gradually going, it's okay, no problem. Broilers, serology will not help. What will help? Day-old PCR will give a clear clue whether it's a positive or negative. Commercial layers, as I mentioned earlier, again, more than the serology, look at the eggs and the mortality, weekly mortality, if and facial swelling. If the egg selections are good, no respiratory sounds are there, and weekly mortality is on the control, normal 0.1% per week, that means you are on the safer side. So based upon these things, you can take a call and judge it where the poultry farm is standing and accordingly control your pricing and of the treatment, also the treatment regimens. So this is how it has to be looked into that. Next one is that sometimes we use medicines and everything, but even then you will find sometimes mycoplasma load is increasing. You have to remember one thing. The quality of medicine is primarily important. Very, very important. Use a good company or good branded, proven efficacy products to protect it. Number one. Number two, don't go by the prevention treatment at all. You have to be very sure what you are doing. There is two treatments. Sometimes 15 mg is prevention. Sometimes you say 25 milligrams per kg body weight is a treatment. You have to be double sure what is the dose you are giving. For the sake of cost, if you try to say, okay, I think I can go for prevention, I don't have a problem, you will have a problem. You have to look at this second thing. So these two are very, very critical in why your medicine is not working. Third one, you can look at it. Don't use only one molecule. Rotate the molecules. Sometimes chicks and growers, you can use some other molecule. Pre-lay and peak lay, you can go for another molecule. In laying period, you can go for another molecule. Vaccines do work, but with reasonable biosecurity, it really works well. That's important. Here is one particular schedule I have given. Like, see, I have rotated the molecules. To start with lymphospectin, then again, I have gone for some vaccines, and again, I have gone for some different molecules. You can try these kind of programs. Maybe you can use, if you are going to use TS11 and TSH, you could give a gap up to some 20 weeks of age, then post 40 weeks of age, you can give it. If you're going to use full-pox vaccine with vector vaccines, you can still go ahead with the regular thing. So it depends upon your regional load, you can take a call. I will not say this is the only thing best works. Live vaccine also works, vector also works. So you have to take a call according to the situation. Now, third one is that people always say, whenever I use a molecule, always they will say, I'm going with CTC. For example, whether it's a tiamutine or tilvelocine or tilmicocine, please remember, there is additive effect when you are using CTC or chlortetracycline with tiamutine only. 1 + 1 is equal to not 2, it's maybe 3 or 4. That's called additive effect. But in this case, this exists only with them. People thinking that CTC is there, every time when they started using, they end up with resistance. Instead, when you are going to use other molecules like tilvelocine, or when you are going to use a tilmicocine, please, you can use any molecules like azithromycin, amoxicillin. Amoxicillin works extremely well. Sometimes people use Fages also, erythromycin, cipro. So you rotate the molecule, including sulfa, it's giving excellent results. So you have to understand this additive effect holds only good for time T. So for rest of the molecules, you can do. If you look at it, the green ones are the molecules which are sensitive. But look at the color of that, the resistant molecules. In the 33, hardly 6 to 7 are working. That means what? We have used indiscriminately lot of molecules. That's why I've given only one sensitive scenarios. If I could show something more, you will find very similar picture in your regions also. Coming back, when it is not helping as a synergistic one, which is you are assuming that the antimycoplasmal molecule is going to work on the mycoplasma as a supportive gram-negative bacteria, you are going to control with these molecules of antibiotics, right? When these antibiotics are having continuously resistance, what is the use of again using? So my suggestion is that please use antibiogram to understand what is going on in your region. These results may vary from region to region. Look at 2-3 times reports or 2-3 flocks, common these things. Take out which one is working well. Please employ those molecules along with tiamutine or tilmicocine, tilvelocine. That will give you better results. This is the suggestion for that. Okay, coming back to the individual problems. Okay, there are some individual problems to these things. One of that in broilers, the lameness is attributed to one of the things around 1 to 1.5% of the birds are getting liquidated. Sometimes they will start culling at the first week and it will go up to the end of that. Some people will lose around 0.5%. Some people lose around somewhere around close to 1.5% also. They will sell it at very less price in the later stages. If you're going to look at the reason for the lameness, sometime when the young chicks are coming up, those period, what we call as a pullet, from 25 weeks to 32 weeks or 33 weeks of age, eggshell thickness will be slightly on the higher side. When you are going to, the chicks will find it difficult to break and come. That's one of the reasons. Sometimes your vitamin quality also plays a role. Some of the vitamins, if it's not very good on that, especially if it's a deficit in not so good in B group, you will find this kind of a problem. Third one reason is the quality of the chlorine fluoride. You need to see very thoroughly the quality of that. Sometimes when you are having higher TMA contents, the chicks are getting the problem. Next reason is that when the eggs are stored for quite long time, hatching holidays is coming, people tend to say, okay, I'm keeping it for 10 days, and also people always look at only the hatchability part of it. very seriously, but they will not look at it very seriously. The bone mineralization of those embryos will be poor. They will not have that. Next reason is equally important is hatchery hygiene. Hatchery hygiene is very, very critical. When you are going to improve your hatchery hygiene, you get very good results in terms of control. Fourth one is Enterococcus cicorum is the bacteria which colonizes in the early ages. Hatching eggs quality and the gut health is the major thing. So these are all some reasons of the lameness, especially in the broilers. Next major trouble in the broiler industry is the inclusion body hepatitis. I'm saying here in broiler industry, especially in Indian context, please be aware this is affecting layers as well. Still, the awareness is not there much in India, but in Bangladesh, I've seen quite good amount of commercial layers are positive for the inclusion by hepatitis. So, if you are going to talk of control, it's not very difficult, but it's a bit complicated. The reason is that when you are going to have more than one serotypes playing a role, for example, 4 and 8B and 11, you should give equal protection to all the birds. You might be doing, I have seen customers, these farmers used to ask me, sir, I have done vaccination. Even after vaccination, I am finding outbreaks. Why is that? Sometimes if the serotypes are not matching the field outbreaks, you will have a trouble of these outbreaks because the serotypes they don't have a cross protection. Some have got a group protection, but some of them are not. So when it is going to be there, your protections will be poor. Second thing, if the parents are again having a trouble with the chicken anemia, the vaccine take will not be good. When vaccine take is not happening good, then you have a trouble of not proper good vaccine take of IBH. Commercially, you will be having this one. You can handle it by keeping good titers of CAV. Titer is not important here because it is one serotype having a good titer, but it may not be protecting other serotypes. So titer is not good, but the serotype, what is present there, that's critical to judge or administer the vaccine in the parent. And sometimes when you have a serious problem in commercials, you can administer these vaccines to control. So this is very, very important in terms of IBH protections. If you are going to come to the last topic in layers, respiratory complex is very, very a common one. Sometimes it could be because of ILT, sometimes it could be because of LP, sometimes it could be because of LP and ND combination. Region-wise, you find troubles differently. You need to understand the dynamics. Because sometimes people will say, sir, whatever, even having said and done, I am getting outbreaks, I don't do vaccine. But if you are going to look at it in layers, that might help. But if you are going to look at the breeders, the cost of the damage is very high. When you are going to look at the situation, people will tell, sir, I'm not doing that. When I have a problem, I do it. Otherwise, some people will tell, sir, I'm stopping the feed. Automatically it recovers. It has got merits and demerits. What is the merit? You stop when you are going to stop the feed, you are going to stop the production drop. Production drop will be there and it recovers. Mortality will stop. But when you look at the end of the period, you will find still the cumulative number of eggs produced will not be that much. So it depends upon that. Sometimes simple E. coli or ammonia, higher ammonia level or complication with ND complicates, not the major disease itself creating a trouble, but the co-infectors create a equally damaging because they are supplementing. So this is about the commercial layer. Coming to my last slide. What is the suggestions to tackle, sorry? We have talked about a lot of problems. The first point which helps is a reasonable biosecurity. I'm repeating, reasonable biosecurity definitely helps a lot. I have seen people are having different opinions, sir. In this India, in this situation, it's practically difficult, sir. I heard that, but even then, some good companies with reasonable biosecurity, I have seen good amount of savings in terms of medication and mortality patterns. Basic biotech, these diagnostic techniques like postmortem and all is good when initial these things, but don't solely rely on that. Use advanced techniques like molecular diagnostics to understand and take a better opinion what's happening in your farm. Third one, keep an eye on regional issues. For example, something is going on in Nellore, I have got an outbreak of HP and all, you have to worry about the region. So you have to act proactively, looking at the regional thing is that. Fourth one is the last point is the problems and situations are dynamic. It's not the same thing, it will be always there. You have to act accordingly, looking at the scenarios, looking at the situations, you have to act it. It's not a kind of fixed, I have devised this molecule, these things, and I think I should go with that. No, it is a done. With that, I conclude my presentation, formal presentation. Thanks everyone for listening to me patiently. I right now do the stopping my presentation. Dr. Sanjay.
Yes, sir. Thank you for this nice and detailed presentation.
Yeah.
I request all the participants that you place your queries in chat box, and after 10 minutes, we will have that questions and answer round. Meanwhile, I just highlight you the company's product portfolio, Chembond's product portfolio. So in between that, you please share your queries in chat box. So this is about Chembond Biosciences. So we have started the business in various businesses in 1975, and we started our business in 2001, and after that there are so many acquisitions and mergers in the company, and we are into different business verticals that we have 750 plus group employees, and we have our own R&D and manufacturing plants in overall India. So we have our pan India presence for catering the animal health products. So in these verticals, currently we have our presence. We are into water technologies, material technologies, construction chemicals, protective coatings, hygiene chemicals, biotech solutions. Under biotech solutions, we have our animal health division, and we received quality certification like ISO, IATF, even though we maintain environmental standards, and for that we also certified through ISO. There are occupational health and safety certificates we received for our plants and manufacturing units. So now I just want to highlight the animal nutrition, which is a part of biotech division. So we are into poultry, dairy, and aqua. We basically manufacture feed additives and feed supplements. In feed additives, we have probiotics, prebiotics, and enzymes. For probiotics and enzymes, we have our own manufacturing units. Since we are a chemical company, so we also have disinfectants, surface cleaners, and continuous disinfectants as well, along with water sanitizers. we do provide customization under vitamin and mineral premixes. So we have blends and individual vitamins and minerals as well. Basically our strength is the research and development. We do provide customized solutions for poultry, dairy, and aqua. We have pan-India presence, and our technical and sales team is also there. So we also have in-house manufacturing facilities. Through that, we produce our own products. These are the certificates we received. And for distributions also, we have our distribution channel throughout the India, Nepal, and Bangladesh. This is basically our poultry product portfolio. So we are into probiotics, enzymes, toxin binders, minerals and vitamins, feed acidifiers, water acidifiers, farm biosecurity products, water hygiene products, antibiotic growth promoters, as well as along with emulsifiers. So for aqua also, we have a product portfolio. Our products are CA approved products. We are into dairy nutrition as well, and we manufacture our own products, dairy products, in our own manufacturing capabilities, and also we are known to provide yeast to the market. This is actually our mycoplasma control program. We suggest terminal disinfection Kemin Plus, which is our brand, which contains the glutaraldehyde and botulinum ammonium compounds. We also have continuous disinfectant Kemin 49, which is a blend of triple salt and sodium chloride. We have well-known and the water sanitizer, that is bromochrome, and also the tiamolin for the prevention of mycoplasma. This is in a nutshell our team. For any technical queries, you can reach to me and our Dr. Rakesh Tiwari. And there is a team in our field for South and West zone. You can connect to Mr. Viraya. Then for North zone, the Rajesh Bist is there, and for East, Mr. Somnath Banerjee is there. So this is about our team. Now I will go one by one with your queries, and Dr. Jayaraman will answer the questions.
Is still my screen is on or no?
Yeah, your screen is on and you are visible.
Okay.
So your voice is also audible to me.
Yeah.
Sir, there is a question from Mr. Prasad.
Yeah.
Sir, can we use reverse genetic process of QX live vaccine in commercials?
Kindly repeat the question once again, Doctor.
He said that can we use reverse genetic process of QX live vaccine in commercials?
Yeah, can we use reverse genetic? No, I think doctor is trying to ask, can we use reverse genetic engineered vaccine in commercial layer? If I understood the question in this fashion, yes, it is the vaccine. There are vaccine, some Korean company vaccines are available, and it is being used in layers and other long-lived birds. It is being used. You can use.
Sir, there is a next question.
Yeah.
Can you explain the combined infection of IB and MS infection in commercial layers? Most of the farms are observing this type of problem. Mixed infection, IB and MS.
Okay. See, IB is a viral pathogen, and MS is the bacterial one. If you ask me which one is creating more trouble, it is very difficult. But per se, when the birds are affected by mycoplasma, when you are going to administer the vaccine, IB vaccine, you will have exacerbations or post-vaccinations roles will be there, which what you called as an roles, or PVR, post-vaccination reactions or roles. So you will feel, hey, I am having an IB problem when I am going to administer IB vaccine. I'm having trouble with the mycoplasma. What do I do? It is a complex situation. To make it clear, if you are going to use it on day one, efficacy is better, but there will be some sneezing will be there, early chick mortality will be more. But when you are going to use it on day 5, the PVR or the reactions will be less, but even then the protection is not that good. So there is a trade-off. Which one you have to do? For this, effectively, you have to first control the mycoplasma. Once the mycoplasma is at reasonable level, and when you are going to administer your vaccine, it works. But when the mycoplasma is not controlled, and when you are going to administer your vaccine, this will create more problem rather than trying to help the birds. So focus on mycoplasma, bring it to the reasonable levels. Then in that situations, when you are going to give IB vaccine, it works very effectively.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there is a question that some doctors, they need to know. They're just asking like Tiamulin showcasing better efficacy compared to other molecules like tilvalucin. What is your thought, sir?
In my opinion, all the molecules are giving equal results. Only the question is that, for example, if you are using tilvalucin the previous occasions on the lower dose, you will find resistance developed faster. When it is developed, resistance is developing. That time you will find the X molecules is not working and Y is working. But on the contrary, if you are going to see, you have got the phases of the life. For example, during the peak period, Tiamulin has got its limitations, the production drop will be there. Now, if you want good production, at the same time, I don't want a dip in, you have got only 2 molecules, tilvalucin and, for example, tilbicocin. See, when we have used in that particular period of time, you will get good production as well. There will be no dip in production, but still the molecules will work. Either if you have used the molecule underdosing, number 1. Number 2, if you have used that same molecule for longer period, automatically the efficacy of that resistance develops. That is why I told you, when you are using it properly, I'm repeating, when you are using it properly, I have seen tilmicocin or tilvalucin is having equal efficacy of that of that. This is my opinion, because I've seen some I'm seeing this particular pattern. There are companies very effectively using these molecules without any issues, with same efficacy. It is not only I'm talking of the problem, I am talking of looking at the in terms of serology also. I find very comfortable it is getting cut.
Thank you, sir. Sir, someone asking Dr. Rahul, like, what is the best vaccine for mycoplasma?
See, there are 2-3 vaccines available in the market. If you talk of the live vaccine, it is a MG and MS, TS11 and MSH is there for the MS. For MSD 6/85 is there, and you have got vector vaccine. These are all the 3 options are there.
Okay, thank you, sir. So,
And,
Dr. Ravi,
yeah, please.
Yeah, please, sir, please.
Yeah, see, when you are administering, I told you, when you are using vector vaccines, you have an advantage of you can use molecules. But I'm having that there are some companies, some good locations I've seen, they are using only live vaccine. And till that end of that 40 weeks or 50 weeks also, they are not using any molecules. Still, their performance is good, production is good, chick quality is good. So it depends. I would say all are equally good. It depends upon how you are handling it. According to the situations, you have to choose. All are equally good.
Thank you, sir. Sir, someone, Dr. Ravi Pardesh asked, like he have questions like, can we use live vaccines at field even after use of vectored vaccine at the day one?
Kindly repeat the question, doctor. I didn't get you.
This is regarding NDV vaccine, sir. He's
MDV.
asking, yeah, he's
MDV.
asking
Marex.
NDV.
No,
NDV.
NDV. Okay. Okay.
So he's asking, can we use live vaccine at field even after use of vectored vaccine at day old?
Okay. Yes, we can use. Especially in the initial stages, before the vector vaccine rises the level of the titer, which is protective, there is a called window of gap wherein the birds are vulnerable. For example, first 10 days or 14 days of age. That is why even if you use vector vaccine, the vaccine manufacturing companies recommend to use one live vaccine in between maybe 5 days or 7 days of live vaccine, give it. When you are going to use it in later stages, I'm repeating, later stages, it just like acts like not directly as a booster, but still it colonizes and gives and help in that. We can use the vaccine, live vaccine, later on.
Thank you, sir. Sir, there is a question from Prithvi Raj.
Yeah.
What is the ideal treatment line for MS infected breeders?
MS infected breeders. Okay. The MS infected breeders, it's as you mentioned, what is the level of the infection we need to assess first. For example, if it's a very severely infected, just administering 3 to 4 days of a particular molecule will not bring down the infection very fast. For example, you take, for example, level of Tiamutine, I'm giving 25 milligrams per kg body weight for 4 days or 5 days. If you look at it, the birds don't get down it control that much. Still, lingering infection will be there, rolling infections are there. To control it, what I used to suggest is try tyrosine tartrate or phosphate in the feed or in the water. If it is in water, better. Means it in the feed, you give it. If it's in tartrate, go for 60 milligram per kg body weight for 7 days, or if it is in phosphate, you give 40 milligrams per kg body weight continuously for that next 1 month. When you are going to give it male and female, you are going to get it controlled. The catch is, in my opinion, many times the mycoplasma gets aggravated or improperly controlled because when you are giving the medication in water, the dosage for female is insufficient for the male because the body weight is high. Water consumption is will not be that much. So when you are giving the same dose, really, if you are intended to do 25 milligrams, you will not get 25 milligrams. It will end up in only 18 milligrams or so. That is why when you are going to give it in through the feed, separate dosage will be there for male feed and female feed. You have to give right dosage for the male. That is very, very critical. By controlling male dosage and administering higher doses for 5 days, higher 25 milligrams, post after that giving 1 more month of tylosine in the feed, it helps you to bring down the problem very much.
From Dr. Sripal, that many times seen PV dilation. Okay, PV dilatation seen
Yes.
well before any immunosuppression. Could we relate it to immunosuppression or any variant of IB?
I don't very specifically observed the dilatation in any immunosuppressed birds. Mostly in the variant, whether it's a broiler or it is in the commercial layer, or it is in the breeder. I have seen, when I have seen this kind of a dilatation, you will find some sort of this thing accompanied with, I'm repeating, accompanied with kidney lesions. Most possibly it is because of IP. Sometimes only dilatation happens, some time of fungal infections and all, or even in black vomit kind of things, you will find dilatation. But I am repeating, when you are accompanied with kidney swelling and kidney lesions and dilatation, mostly it is.
Okay, sir. Sir, the
Yeah.
last question is there
Yeah.
from